Hello learners, I am Sudeshna Chaudhary, Assistant Professor of Philosophy at Icon Commerce College. So under the course of Social and Political Philosophy, today I will be discussing the Unit 12, that is Socialism. So this unit will also be covered in 3 videos. In today's video, we will have a detailed discussion on what socialism is and what is the nature of socialism. So socialism is described as a system where the production and distribution of goods and services are managed collectively. This means that instead of individuals or private entities controlling resources and profits, a group or the state is responsible for ensuring that these resources are distributed equitably or equally among all members of society. Socialism is rooted in collectivist principles, which prioritize the well-being of the group over individual gains. The goal is to reduce economic inequality by redistributing wealth and resources to ensure that everyone has access to basic needs such as housing, healthcare, and education. One key characteristic of socialism is the absence of privately owned property. Instead of individuals owning land, factories, or businesses, these are commonly owned by the community or managed by the state. This approach aims to eliminate class distinctions based on wealth and property ownership. In Karl Marx framework, socialism serves as a transitional phase between capitalism and communism. Now, the term socialism is attributed to Pierre Leroux and Marie-Louise Ribaud in France, as well as Robert Owen in Britain. Owen often is considered as the father of the cooperative movement, as he advocated for shared ownership and democratic control of enterprises as a way to create equitable and harmonious society. By the 1860s, the term socialism had evolved into its modern definition, superseding similar terms such as cooperative, mutualist, and associationist, which were previously used interchangeably. Now, the etymological and historical roots of socialism. First, we will discuss about Andre Vincent's perspective. Andre Vincent traces the origins of the word socialism to the Latin term sociare, meaning to combine or to share. This root encapsulates the core essence of socialism, which emphasizes cooperation and mutual support. The term reflects the idea of people coming together to share resources and work collectively for the common goods. This stands in contrast to systems that prioritize individual ownership and competition. The Latin root sociare gave rise to the term societas, which was used in Roman and medieval law. Societas had two key meanings. First is the companionship and fellowship, which means, or this meaning resonates with the cooperative and relational aspects of socialism, emphasizing community bonds and social cohesion. The second is the legalistic idea of contract. So societas also refer to a consensual contract among free men, symbolizing a formal agreement to work together for mutual benefit. This concept can be seen as a precursor to the structured agreements and collective ownership principles central to socialism. The dual meanings of societas, that is, social relationships and formal agreements, reflect the spirit of socialism. Socialism seeks to balance community and cooperation with organized frameworks for managing shared resources and responsibilities. This historical perspective underscores the deep roots of socialist ideals in both personal relationships and structured governance. Now come to Maurice Comfort's perspective. So Maurice Comfort provides a clear and practical definition of socialism. He defines it as social ownership of the means of production. And this means that essential resources, tools, and industries are owned collectively by society rather than by private individuals or corporations. The utilization of these resources aims to fulfill the material and cultural needs of society as a whole. The material needs includes basic necessities like food, housing, healthcare, and education, and the cultural needs encompasses access to arts, education, and cultural enrichment, ensuring a holistic and well-rounded quality of life. Comfort argues that socialism is essential to overcome the flaws of capitalism and harness technological advancements for the benefit of all. Andrew Wiesent's perspective is rooted in history and etymology. He highlights the philosophical and relational foundations of socialism, focusing on its origins in concepts of sharing, cooperation, and formal agreements. His approach provides a broader understanding of socialism as an idea tied to community and collaboration. Again, Maurice Comfort, in contrast, takes a practical and ideological approach. He emphasizes socialism as an economic system which is designed to address the inequalities and inefficiencies inherent in capitalism. Comfort's perspective focuses on how socialism functions in modern society, particularly its ability to promote fairness and leverage technology for the collective good. Now let us discuss about the historical origins of socialism. The term socialism was first coined in the early 19th century. Initially, it referred to philosophical or moral beliefs rather than structured political or economic systems. At its inception, socialism was more about ideals and aspirations to improve society than a concrete set of policies or practices. Now let us discuss some of the definitions given by different sociologists regarding socialism. Now let us discuss some of the definitions given by different philosophers and socialists regarding socialism. So, one of the earliest uses of the term socialism is credited to Alexander Vinet, who defined it as the opposite of individualism. While individualism prioritizes personal and independence and self-interest, socialism emphasizes collective responsibility and cooperation for the mutual benefit of society. Again, Robert Owen, who was a prominent social reformer, approached socialism from an ethical standpoint. He believed society could and should be improved to benefit everyone. His vision included creating communities based on principles of cooperation and shared responsibilities, reflecting his belief in ethical socialism. Again, another significant thinker is Pierre-Joseph Proudhon. He describes socialism in broad aspirational terms. He defines socialism as every aspiration towards the amelioration of society, suggesting that socialism fundamentally seeks to make society better. For Proudhon, socialism was not confined to a single approach, but included any initiative or idea aimed at progress, equality, and collective welfare. Now, let us discuss the nature of socialism. So, socialism encompasses a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production, workers' self-management, and the political theories and movements associated with these ideas. Social ownership can take various forms, including public ownership by the state, collective or cooperative ownership by groups, and citizen ownership of equity, where individuals hold shares in enterprises or collective benefit from profits. A core feature of socialism is its emphasis on reducing economic inequality and prioritizing societal welfare over private property. In the 1840s, a distinction was made between socialism and communism. Socialism was seen as focusing on socializing production, meaning collective ownership and management of industries and resources. Communism, on the other hand, aimed to socialize both production and consumption, envisioning a system where goods and services were freely accessible to everyone. Over time, this distinction blurred, and Marxists began to use socialism as a synonym for communism. So initially there was a difference between socialism and communism, but later it was seen as synonym. So by 1888, Marxists had largely adopted the term socialism in place of communism, which had become considered an outdated synonym. This shift reflected the growing influence of Marxist theory, which positioned socialism as a stage in the progression towards a classless, stateless society. So the distinction between socialism and communism was redefined after Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. Vladimir Lenin introduced socialism as a transitional phase between capitalism and communism. He used this concept to defend the Bolshevik seizure of power against critics who argued that Russia lacked the industrial and economic development traditionally required for a socialist revolution. Lenin framed socialism as a necessary step toward achieving full communism, giving it a new role within Marxist theory. Socialism by nature is a system that prioritizes collective ownership and democratic management of resources and production. While its definition and implementation have evolved over time, its core principles remain focused on reducing inequality and promoting societal welfare. The terms historical development, particularly through Marxist and Leninist reinterpretations, reflects its adaptability to changing political and economic context. Now, socialism as a science. What do we understand? Socialism, because social science, we know na. So, socialism as a science, how do we understand it? So, socialism, when approached as a science, encompasses a set of laws and categories that explain the key processes involved in the revolutionary transformation of a capitalist society into a communist one. So these laws address significant stages, including the socialist revolution, the establishment of the dictatorship of the proletariat, and the subsequent transition from capitalism to socialism and then to communism. By studying these laws, scientific socialism offers insights into the systematic progression of societal change. Scientific socialism provides a framework for understanding how the working class will lead to class struggle against capitalist exploitation. It offers practical guidance for revolutionary movements, outlining principles, strategies, and techniques necessary for dismantling oppressive systems and constructing a classless society. Through its application, it transforms theoretical concepts into actionable steps for achieving systematic change. Unlike purely conceptual or philosophical frameworks, scientific socialism is practical and operative. It focuses on the historical process of transitioning from capitalism to communism, emphasizing real-world actions and stages of revolutionary struggle. This perspective ensures that socialism is not merely an ideal to aspire to, but a tangible process of societal transformation. Now, the widespread evils of capitalism, such as inequality, exploitation, and social injustice, all this created significant dissatisfaction among people. This large-scale discontent motivated many to seek alternatives to the oppressive capitalist system. Recognizing the harmful effects of capitalism, individuals began to view socialism as the only viable solution for rescuing the working class and common people for exploitation and oppression. Scientific socialism envisions a society that eliminates the injustices of capitalism. By addressing the root causes of inequality and exploitation, it aims to build a society where resources are shared equally and the needs of all individuals are met. In this classless society, the guiding principles of socialism ensures that every member of the community can live free from oppression and enjoy equal opportunities. Now, in the first half of the 19th century, many writers and thinkers who identified themselves as socialists, they began to describe their visions of an ideal human society. These early proponents of socialism, later referred to as utopian socialists, focused on creating communities that would embody their ideas of equality, cooperation, and justice. They believed that society should be organized around principles of social and economic equality. These visions were not just theoretical but often included practical attempts to implement these ideals through small-scale communities. Over time, the term socialism became associated with not only a moral doctrine but also with a vision of an egalitarian society based on these principles. A fundamental tenet of socialism, again, is the abolition of the wage labor system that was inherent in capitalism. Under capitalism, workers sell their labor power in exchange for wages, which are a reflection of their economic worth to the employer and not necessarily their value as human beings. But socialism seeks to eliminate these practices, and meaning that there will be no buying or selling of labor. Instead, the focus shifts to ensuring that production serves use value, which is the direct needs of the people, rather than the pursuit of profit. And this shift emphasizes that production should be driven by social needs and not by the desire to generate wealth for a few. Under socialism, the vast resources of modern technology and production techniques will be directed towards fulfilling society's needs rather than being controlled by private entities for profit. This means that the productive forces which are currently under private control in capitalist societies would be restructured for the collective benefit of all. The goal of socialism is to use the resources and techniques at society's disposal to ensure that everyone's basic needs are met and to increase the overall well-being of all members of society. So, socialism also aims to increase productivity and labor intensity, ensuring that more goods and services are produced in a given time. However, the aim of socialism is not merely to increase production for the sake of economic growth, but to improve the quality of life for all. With the abolition of capitalist production methods, socialism envisions reducing the length of the working day to only the necessary labor time. And this shift would enable workers to spend more time on personal activities, including recreation and cultural pursuit, thus improving their overall quality of life. The distinction between necessary labor and surplus labor, which was there in capitalism and which in capitalism generates surplus value for the capitalist, would lose its meaning in a socialist society. And instead this, workers would be compensated for their labor without being exploited for extra value beyond their basic needs. So beyond material satisfaction, socialism focuses on the all-round development of human personality. It does not only promise to meet basic needs, but also aims to free human beings from the constraints that capitalism imposes on their potential. By abolishing the divisions of labor and other systems that limit human creativity and growth, socialism seeks to liberate human power from bondage. Workers no longer bound by repetitive and alienating tasks, they would be able to pursue personal development, engage in cultural activities, and contribute to society in more fulfilling ways. In the capitalist system, the division of labor and other structural barriers restricts workers both physically and spiritually. These barriers prevent individuals from developing their full potential and creativity. Karl Marx criticized these restrictions and envisioned a society where work no longer alienates workers from themselves or from the products of their labor. Socialism aims to eliminate these constraints, enabling people to live more freely and engage in work that is fulfilling and intellectually stimulating. In a socialist society, the realm of freedom would be vastly expanded as people would no longer be constrained by the physical necessity of survival. Freed from these constraints, human beings could invest their energies in nobler and greater purposes, focusing on personal growth and contributing to the collective welfare. So today we have discussed on what do we understand by socialism and what is the nature of socialism. In our next two videos, we will be discussing the characteristics of socialism and the merits and demerits of socialism. Okay? Hope you all have understood. Thank you.